You have a fond relationship with Maalaea.
That goes way back to the 70s.
But you were there for the 2005.
Yeah.
And you had the presence of mind not just to be there surfing. You've always been documenting your travels around the world, and you shot some photos.
I shot a lot of pictures and some video.
With one of the first professional quality DSLRs, the Canon 10D.
10D, yeah.
I don't know if there's one in existence anymore. Do you still have that camera?
No.
You gave me footage because we were working on this history of surfing documentary. You traveled the world 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, world tour, and you shot Super 8.
Yep.
I mean, that footage is incredible.
Yeah, I've just always had a fascination with shooting stuff, and back then it was so I could get home and show my friends, and we'd set up the projector and I'd show them, you know, footage from my world travels, and always enjoyed doing it and documenting it. It's just something that I've always loved to do.
Would you guys do slideshows?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd get the music ready, and I have my slideshow, and I, you know, hit the carousel. And
kids don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Well, you were obviously one of the first pro surfers that started pro surfing. But who else was anyone else documenting and surfing back then?
I know Bobby Owens took a lot of pictures, but other than that, nobody really had cameras or took pictures. Yeah, nobody was documenting that I know of. I know Tom Carroll later took a lot of pictures, but in the early days, I was pretty much the only one on the surfing tour and on the modeling tour. And when I was on modeling jobs, I'd always bring my camera, and no one else would. I always like to get that behind the scenes shot and tell the story of what went down. My dad used to take pictures of us. You know, he had a camera and the movie camera that I took over. So I was used to being in front of the camera. And Bruce Weber told me later when I interviewed him for my book, he goes, Buzzy, you're really lucky the camera loves you. Really good-looking people, sometimes the camera doesn't like them. And he goes...
And you're the opposite. You're not good-looking, but the camera
makes
really helps.
Capture something. All of a sudden, I look in the mirror, I go, you ugly, you know, and then... Sometimes the pictures make me look good.
Buzzy was also top modeling before too much Photoshop. So you know, all they could do back then was really tint something. So you know, it was real. So this Maalaea swell, 2005. Had you surfed it before that? I mean, I know you spent a lot of time on Maui, you know, inventing things like windsurfing and tow surfing. But this Maalaea, this rare wave, how many times had you really got it?
Well, I went there in the 70s. We used to go to Maui in the summer, and my friend Chris Woods and Brad Lewis had the house right there. There was a house right in front of freight trains, and they had a ping pong table in the house, and we'd see these little waves out front and go out and surf it, you know, wishing it would get bigger. But during those days, you know, I saw pictures of other guys getting it, but it never got over 4 feet. You know, it's just rare. And there's a few times where it broke and I missed it, but also quite a few times through the years where there'd be like an afternoon where some sets came in and you had to be there and get it. But I always dreamed of the really good day. And then 2005, it was September. It was late, but it came on, and we had it up until this last swell. I believe that was the best swell there ever. I mean, there was 8-10-foot sets coming in.
17 years ago was a different world in terms of like connectivity, right?
Oh yeah, way different, way different.
So you just happened to be there. You didn't hear, oh, it's coming.
No, I was on Maui and just happened to be there, and it showed up.
Who were some of the standouts of that swell, 2005?
I went out and had a great session. I came in and I was so excited about some of the waves I got, and everybody on the beach could talk about was Matt Kinishida's wave, which I didn't see, but he's one of the hot Maui backsiders, and apparently he got one in the morning from deep, just barreled all the way across. Nalu Wallace got some really good ones. Alika Moipono rode a longboard and just ruled the afternoon session, just got the best ones that came in. I mean, even in '05, it was extremely crowded, and guys were just dropping in one after another, and bodyboards and surfers and crazy crowd. So there's been a vibe, oh, don't talk about Maalaea, you know, don't give away our secret spot. But I think the cat's out of the bag, and if people are going to show up and expect to get a wave out there, good luck. I mean, the die-hard local Maui guys have a hard time getting waves, and so
Mark Anderson got a good one on your footage, yeah?
Yeah, Mark Anderson was there in '05, and then for this swell, Mark Ando is a Honolulu guy, friend of mine from way back, that he doesn't miss a good barrel on if it shows up on the island, he'll be there. Kiva Rivers got some good waves, and his brother, and Cy Smiley, I think was there back then, and for this swell. My boys got some. They had some issues with drop-ins and not getting the right ones and couldn't catch them. Yeah, it's
It was a
tough.
drop-in
Doesn't
fest.
matter who you are, you're gonna have problems. Kai.
Hi, can I?
I got a crying baby right now.
Yeah, did that crying baby get dropped in on it?
Might have gotten dropped in on. Oh, she's okay now. She's okay. Hi, guys.
Hey, Kai.
Kai, we heard
Buzzy.
you had a ticket to ride on the freight train the other day.
Yeah, I finally got a ticket to the freight train. And the last time I got to see it was 2005 when Buzzy was out there. And that was when I was 13 years old, so 17 years ago.
Were you
did
on
you
the
surf it? Yeah.
shoulder on that day, or were you watching on 05?
I surfed to the very end of the
Yeah.
wave, like the very, very end, like basically all the way down to that spot, Haycraft.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I remember looking out and seeing the plumes of spray go super high in these crazy barreling waves, and was just so terrified of what it would be like to be out there.
You, at one point in your life, were terrified of big waves?
I mean, yeah, I definitely was. I mean, the 13-year-olds nowadays are pretty gnarly. They all surf Jaws and stuff. But when
Yeah.
I was 13, nobody was surfing waves like that.
With this swell, Kai, from the footage I saw, it looked like you've been surfing that place your whole life. How did you come to master it so well in a spot that you never get to surf? Have you studied the footage, or what? Or did it just come natural to you out there figuring it out?
I'd like to say it was probably like from surfing small days, but at the same time, you know, when it gets big, it's nothing like the small days. So I think when I was out there, I went out there with zero expectations. Didn't really expect, you know, I just wanted to get some good waves. And then I really found my lineup out there, and I really stuck to it. I think there's like a bunch of different ways you can approach the spot.
Yep.
But as soon as I kind of found what was working, I was like, okay, I'm going to just commit to this. And, you know, I found a building to line up with, and then I looked down the beach, and I kind of found a marker to triangulate myself. So I knew how far out I could be without being too far out, because even on the biggest waves, it's so enticing to want to sit farther out, but the wave loads up and ledges up onto the reef that no matter how big it gets, it seems like it just loads back up onto that same reef you would surf small, too. It's funny because with all that wind, as you know, it's like you got to ride a big board, but once you're on the wave, you don't need a big board, but it kind of helps because you have that extra rail line to drive you down the line.
What size board were you riding? Did you switch it up?
I started off in the morning on a 6'4", because I knew that like a lot of people were out on 6.0s, and I knew that from my experience in small days that you kind of need a bigger board for that wave.
Yep.
And so I was like, okay, I'll go 6'4", and it felt good. And then the waves started getting bigger, and I thought to myself, you know, it doesn't make a difference how big of a board once I'm in the wave because I'm going straight anyway.
Straight
and
in
I
the
just got
barrel,
pumped,
yeah.
and
A big board doesn't hurt you.
no, so I was like, I'm gonna just take a 6'8" out just in case a really big one comes, and I would regret it the rest of my life if I couldn't catch it. I missed it. I was undergunned, and I was watching countless people being undergunned and being in the spot, but not being able to get under it with enough like momentum. And so the 6'8", I used every inch of that 6'8" to just kind of roll in, and it wasn't. I could have probably caught those waves on smaller boards too, but it was nice knowing that I could focus on the wave and not trying to just get under the lip, you know. And if you at all look late on a wave out there, people are going to drop in. So I wanted to have look like I was in control the entire time so no one would burn me.
Did the great Kai Lenny get dropped in on it all?
I got dropped in on a bunch. I mean, I would say some of my best waves I didn't get dropped in, but I had a couple of my longest barrels for sure. I was coming out, and right at the end someone would go. And it's just, I think the nature of that spot, people just, it's crazy because someone could drop in and they're always silhouetted, so you can't see who it was. And then there's 100 people in the lineup, and they all camouflage together, so you can't tell who dropped in on you. So
Yeah.
there's like a full drop-in security blanket.
Was it that way in 05?
Yes. Yeah. Always crowded. All the way up. And guys just going. Doesn't matter who you are. Unless you're a Lika Moipono, guys were going to go on you.
Yeah, it didn't look like it had the same kind of respect level that like Honolulu Bay would have. It turned into a little bit more mayhem.
I got lucky in that I established myself in getting the set waves, so people kind of got used to seeing me on the bigger waves, and then I was making them unless I got dropped in on. So people just always assumed I was making it.
Yeah.
And that was like kind of a blessing for sure. I mean, there was a lot of really good guys getting dropped in on who didn't have as good of sessions as I did.
Only 2 days of this swell, really. What was '05 like? How many days in a row?
It was 2 days, but 1 day primarily.
So, I mean, you don't have much time.
No, it's and it goes through phases. It's not good all day. It's like as the tide's coming, the wind gets too strong. It goes through phases of conditions and crowds. But there was a lot of waves over 2 days with this swell, and there was a lot of waves in this swell.
Well, I ended up surfing 10 hours, and I was hoping not to necessarily have to surf 10 hours each day, because I was like, all right, well, the tide's going to get too low, and it's going to get funky, and it never got bad. It was just good the whole way through. And granted, there'd be some lulls, but I mean, by the afternoon on Saturday, on the big day, there were, I would say, 10 waves in a set.
Yeah.
And so you'd have 8 to 10 foot waves coming through, and there'd be 10 of them. And if you got the first wave, you could paddle out and conceivably get the last wave of the set, because it would filter so many people through, and the lineup would really move. And what was happening at the end of those sets is everyone would be so out of position for the big ones. And so you could be out the back completely by yourself.
Did it take a lot out of you surfing there?
Well, I was going to just bring that up because when I surfed it, I surfed like 2-hour sessions, like 2 in a day, and I'm worn out and I came in and shot. Kai was out there 10 hours. So Kai, how do you do that? How do you stay out for so long? I mean, you do that at Jaws, you do that there. It's a strategy that in my day, nobody else ever stayed out that long. Maybe Lopez and Indo, but I mean, you stay out when it's good. You stay out all day long. It's just crazy.
Yeah, is that lithium-ion batteries in your back or what?
I've been waiting for that day, a day like 2005, since I was, you know, a kid going to school with your son, Cody, Buzzy, and I just was like, you probably will never get to see a day like that. And then all of a sudden it came when I was out there. I'm like, you know, I have the rest of my life to rest after this.
Yeah.
I better just like make the most of it. And I want to basically have zero regrets. Like I didn't miss anything, so that when I look back on it, it's not, well, if I could have, would have, should have, why didn't I? It's just, I was out there. And the hardest part about that whole session for me was actually the water. I don't know, something was in the water. It was pretty gnarly because everyone was itching themselves like they were crack addicts or something.
Probably stirred up a lot of stuff from the harbor right there.
Yeah, it was like extremely itchy.
Probably oil and gas.
And I heard there might be like a sewer line that runs out into the ocean over there, and it's cracked right where the wave is. You know, I've heard all these things. So
yeah, that water was brown.
Have you guys ever surfed a wave like that or seen a wave like that anywhere in your life? Maybe Neos or J-Bay?
You know, I've seen video. Neos, you know, is somewhat comparable, but most other places aren't. It's unlike any other wave I've surfed anywhere on the planet. I mean, it's the ultimate tubes are attainable there.
Kai, what about you? Have you ever surfed anything like that? Seen anything like that?
I mean, I'll second what Buzzy said. I think it's probably one of the most unique waves in the world. Just if you look at a wide shot, and it could be just shot on an iPhone, and you look at it, the way the wave is breaking and the line of it, it doesn't look like any other wave. It has like this ruler edge to it and this perfection. It's basically mechanical. You know, it's a giant version of Kelly Slater's wave pool.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like when I was in the barrel, where once you lock in and you are really locked in, it's like, wow, I'm going to make this thing. And
yeah,
I'm in here for a long, long time. It's just, no matter what, it's, especially on those bigger waves, like people could paddle and like pull back and a chandelier would fall, but the wave itself was so perfect you'd almost get rid of that chandelier as the lift was going over. And I just couldn't believe how not a single wave I rode clamped. It always just stayed hollow. I was either just too deep or someone dropped in.
The only wave that comes close costs $20 million to build. And Kai, you go to Kelly Slater's wave pool probably 7-8 times a year. Would you be willing to invite Buzzy and the boys on your next trip?
I wish I went that much, but of course, yeah, of course. I think it would be really fun to have Buzzy and the boys come up there and surf it. I mean, it's just the miniature version. I hope Kelly, you know, after seeing the swell, figures, okay, we need to make a 8 to 10 foot version of the pool now.
We only need like a 100-yard section of just the sickest slab barrel. And we'll have so much fun. You'll kick out and your friend will just be dropping into the next one, you know, and you're just on a conveyor belt. None of this like wait 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah. Kai, real quick, just before we send you off, let the world know, what has Buzzy been instrumental in gifting to the surf world? I mean, how important is this guy in the lineage of the way we ride waves?
Starting in the early days, Buzzy was one of the best pro surfers on, the face of the planet, charging giant waves, paddling in, and then also being the pioneer or one of them to invent cone surfing, which completely changed the way people approach big waves. And without him and a few others, I don't think surfing would be where it is today. I mean, now people can surf waves and survive that before wasn't thought possible. I mean, there was always a limit to surfing when the waves would get too big, and he kind of broke the mold with that. And I was just lucky enough to be best friends with his son growing up and being able to watch it firsthand and remember being on the cliff and seeing all those days. So I mean, there are, a few extremely instrumental names in surfing that'll stand the test of time, and Buzzy's name is one of them.
Thanks, Kai. I'll pay you later.
Venmo's coming.
Okay, I'm waiting on the Venmo, and that's it's all from the heart.
Epic. All right, thanks for checking in with us, brother. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks so much, Kai. Hope to see you soon.
Okay, see you guys. Bye.
One thing I'd like to bring up at this point is I'm not sure if Kai's even aware, but back in the 70s, there was a harbor expansion plan in place, and they were going to move the breakwall farther over right on Freight Train's reef. And I guess some developers had bought the property behind it, and so it was years and years of public hearings, and it was the Save Our Surf back then, and there was bumper stickers, Save Maalaea. So the Army Corps of Engineers had done their research and said, it's not going to affect any marine life, it's not going to affect the wave, don't worry guys, it's going to be fine, we're just going to move the breakwall over 100 yards right into the peak of the wave.
So what do you got coming up? What you're going to heal that arm, and what's next for you?
Well, I'm going to go back to Maui and wait another 20 years. I'm going to sit at the harbor with my board and some wax and wait for it to happen again.
What's your funnest way to get in the water right now? You've been foiling a lot still?
I've been wing foiling, surfing, and
you're
toe
probably
surfing
great with
and
the wing foiling.
Yeah, the
Obviously,
wing foiling's awesome. So
you understand how to catch wind.
Yep. So my windsurfing experience is paying dividends for the kite.
Tell me about this book you put together. What was the impetus for that?
I'd always, like we talked about earlier, I'd always taken pictures and videos and kept journals when I was in school. I had a writing class, and they said, keep a journal. So I kept a journal for the class, and then I kept doing it while I was traveling around the world on the pro tour and modeling, and I took pictures and wrote my stuff. So it's like one day I looked at the pile of all my stuff. I want to write a book, and I kept saying that. And then my wife, Barbara, said, you keep talking about it, why don't you do it?
How hard was it to publish it and put it all together and go back through it?
It's a lot of work. It's
curate which moments and
so hard boiling it down to which stories to focus on and getting permission from the photos and getting every
did you have
word
to call everyone that was going to be in it?
And getting every date right and every name, and it's a lot of work, but it was very enjoyable. I'm glad I did it, but knowing now, I wouldn't do it again.
Really?
Yeah, it's just so much work.
That's cool. That's like one of those, like making an album or a record, like, at the end you're like, I wouldn't do that again, but thank goodness you did it. If you would have known what it was going to take, you might not have gone through it.
I wouldn't have known. I had no idea it would
and
be
you
that
made
hard.
what, like millions off that book, huh?
I broke even.
That's incredible. I would have assumed you lost money.
By selling them myself, if I wholesaled them, I would never have made my money.
Right.
But I did one printing, and I went around and sold them all myself and my website, and broke even. And
wait, are they gone?
I've got about 50 left that I'm
Those
saving.
are like collector's items now. Really, you're not doing another printing?
I'm not doing another printing.
Did you hear that? There's 50 left. Where do the people get it?
On my website is buzzykerbox.com.
Buzzykerbox.com.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a name like you always got. Is your email? We're not going to.
No, I went to get buzzykerbox.com, and someone had taken it.
Oh, they thieved you.
Yeah, so I had to wait, and then they ditched it, and then I got it.
What are you going to call your podcast?
This podcasting something I've thought about doing, and on different subjects and matters. So I don't want to pigeonhole with a certain name yet, but it'll come to me.
All right, thanks, man.
Boom. Right on.